on an answer find and shade worksheet that's covering two-step fill in the blanks. And this is a level 3 worksheet, which means you should know your algebra, you should know how to solve two-step equations. Now, if you don't know that, then maybe you should be working on the level 1 or the level 2 worksheet. But since I'm assuming you know how to do this, I'm just here to help you if you've forgotten, or maybe you need a little bit of help, or maybe you're just struggling. So I'm here to help you. Okay? Let's take a look at the directions. The directions say fill in the boxes to make each statement true. In other words, the statement or the equation has to be equal. The next part of the directions say the two boxes for each problem are the same answer. And if we take a look at problem number 1, they already did it for us. As you can see, they put 32 in both boxes. That means the two boxes for each problem are the same answer. And you might be asking, well, why did they pick 32? Well, 32 divided by 4 is 8, and negative 24 plus 32 is 8. So they are equal, or both sides are the same, or the statement is true. And that's all we have to do. Now, once you find the answer that goes in the little box, we come down here to our big box and we look for the number. And as you can see, 32 is right there, and it's letter H. So we'd come back up here and we'd shade in all the letter H's. And there is one right there, so we'd shade that in. Now, there's probably more than one of them. I'm just shading one, so make sure you find all of them. A matter of fact, just to help you out really quick, don't tell anybody. There's another H right there. Okay, so usually, or most always, there's going to be more than one of them. So make sure you get them. All right. Now, before we start, I am going to grab this little piece of paper I have hidden down here. And I'm going to drag this little piece of paper and I'm going to put it in the way of the picture because I'm not going to shade any more in. You're going to do all of that. And the reason why I'm going to use this piece of paper is going to help us solve the problems and give us some extra space. Now, since we're using algebra skills, what I would personally do, instead of using these little boxes, I would assume there's n's in all these boxes. I like n because n stands for like a number. Remember, n is a variable. And that is our algebra. We are solving for the variable. So basically, we just need to solve this. So I'm just going to rewrite it right here. N minus 76 equals 90 minus n. And when I solve these problems, I ask myself, who is happy and who is not happy? And what I mean is, remember, when you're solving a two-step equation or using your algebra skills, you're trying to get the numbers on one side of the equal sign and the variables on the other side of the equal sign. I always think to myself that numbers and variables, they hate each other. The variables are jealous of all the numbers because there's so many numbers and there's only 26 letters. And they're like, oh, there's so many of you. And the number's like, ha, we're so many. So I always think the numbers and the letters don't like each other and I'm trying to separate them. But the thing is on this problem is no one is happy because we have a letter or a variable next to a number on this side, and we have a number and a variable next to each other on this side. So no one's happy. So it doesn't matter who you move. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this minus 76 here because I know if I send it to the other side, it's going to become its opposite, and it'll become positive. So basically, if we're using our algebra skills, I am going to move the minus 76. So I'm going to write a plus 76 here and a plus 76 here. Remember, when you're doing algebra or you're solving a two-step equation, whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So I'm adding 76 to both sides. And you might be thinking, wait a second, why are you doing that again? The reason why is because a minus 76 and a plus 76 cancel each other out. In other words, it gives you 0. So you say, bye-bye. And now the n is by himself. Could be a her. I'm just going to say him. So the n's by himself. He's all happy. He's like, dude, I'm by myself now. There's no more of those stinky numbers next to me. And the 76 is on the other side. And 90 plus 76 gives us 6. And 9 plus 7 gives us 166. but we still have the minus n. And the 166 is saying, get out of here! I don't want you on my side! So the minus n says, I'm going to go join my friend over here. And again, you have to do the opposite to get rid of it because it's going to the opposite side. So here, I'm going to put a plus n, and here I'm going to put a plus n. And again, whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. And a minus n and a plus n cancel each other out. And I have 166 equals 2n, because n plus n, you have two n's. Well, now you're thinking, wait a second, now we have a number next to that n. This is crazy. So we have to move the 2 away from the n. And if you've forgotten, a 2 next to an n means 2 times n. So what's the opposite of multiplication? You guessed it, division. So we're going to divide by 2, and you have to do it on both sides. So if we divide by 2, the 2's get canceled out. We have an n, and 166 divided by 2 will give us 83. So what that's telling us is that 83 goes in these boxes, 83 and 83. And I'm just going to check it really quick. 83 minus 76. If I put 83 minus 76, I get 7. And if I do 90 minus 83, I get 7. They are equal, or both sides are the same, or the statement is true. So our answer is 83. So what I'm going to do, or what you're going to do, is come down here and find 83. 83 is the letter V. V as in victory! And I'm going to come up here and find all the V's and shade them in. Again, I'm not doing that. You are. So I'm going to leave my little piece of paper on top of my picture. Now, I've helped you a little, so this is what I want you to try to do. I want you to try to do problems 3, 4, and 5 on your own. So press pause, give it a try. When you're done, press play, and come back to me, and we will check your answers. See you in a bit. Welcome back. You were supposed to do problems 3, 4, and 5. Really quick, I just realized some of these might actually be 3-step equations, but still, you're using your algebra skills. And also, if you think I'm going too fast, remember, this is a video. You could always stop and rewind. You could go and hear me again. You go and hear me again. That's the great thing about having a video. You can stop, play it as slow as you want. You can take a break, have a soda, have a cup of coffee, come back to this. And it's all up to you and on your time. All right? That's the cool part about having a video. Also, if I'm going too slow, then maybe you don't have to listen to me. Don't! Just do the handout on your own. I'm just here to help the people that need help. All right? We're looking at problem number 3. Problem 3, we are going to switch all the empty boxes to n's like we talked about before. So I'm just going to write it right here. Well, before we even start, we know n times 1 is n, because anything times 1 is itself. And n is n, so n is itself, n. And over here we have 22 minus n. And we say to ourselves, who is happy, who is not happy? Well, the 22 is not happy because he's next to the n. And the n is not happy because he's next to the 22. They're like, I hate you. No, I hate you. No, I hate you. No, I hate you. You move, I move. You move, you move, I move. He moves, I don't know who moves. But what we need to know is that this n over here is happy because he's all by himself. And if you think about it, if you move the 22 over here, well, now this n right here won't be happy. So you can't be moving the number. We probably have to move the variable. So what we do is we take this n right here and we're going to move it with the other n. And again, we're moving it to the opposite side. So we need to do the opposite. And what's the opposite of a negative n or a minus n? Well, of course, a plus n. And remember, whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other side. So here, the n's cancel each other out. So we have 22. And over here, we have n plus n, which gives us 2n. Well, now the 22 is really happy. He's all by himself. He's like, yeah. But now the 2 and the n are next to each other. So we have to get rid of the 2. We need to move it over to where the other number is. And again, 2 next to n means 2 times n, or multiplication. And the opposite of multiplication is division. Remember, if you forget about this, just think, I'm moving it to the opposite side, so I have to do the opposite operation. And the opposite operation of multiplication is division. So I'm going to divide by 2, and whatever I do to one side, I have to do the other side, so I'm going to divide by 2. Well, 2 divided by 2 is 1, which pretty much gets rid of it. So we just have n, and 22 divided by 2 is 11. And if I come over here really quick and I put in 11 into our empty boxes, 22 minus 11 is 11, and 11 times 1 is 11. The answers are the same, the equation is equal, or the statement is true. So we got it. So we're going to come down here and find 11. And 11, 11, 11 is CC. CC. See? CC. All right, and you come back up here and shade in all the CCs. And again, I'm sorry that my paper's in the way, but remember, I don't have to shade it in. You do, and you get to make the cool little picture. You get all the fun. So let me clean this up really quick. Number 4 says, number 4 is 32 minus an empty box, and I'm just going to change it to an n, a variable, equals an empty box. I'm just going to change it to an n divided by 7. So we have 32 minus n equals n divided by 7. And this is when two-step equations get a little difficult, because you're thinking to yourself, wait a second, no one is happy. Who do I move? And it's very confusing, because you got this divided by 7 over here, and you got a subtraction. You know, it really doesn't matter who you move. You'll get the right answer, but sometimes if you think about it for a second, you might say, hey, you know what? This might be a little easier if I just do this. And I actually think that if we move the 7 to the opposite side first, it might save us some time. Remember, if you're sending it to the opposite side, you have to do the opposite operation. And the opposite operation of division is multiplication. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 7. And what happens here is the 7's get canceled out, so all you have is n. And now n's like, woohoo, I'm by myself. But over here, we kind of got a little messy situation. Now we have 32 minus n. And since we brought over the times 7, we have to multiply everything by 7. That means you have to multiply the 32 by 7 and the n by 7. Now you might be thinking, wait, that's a little confusing. But a way of writing it, you could write it like this, around with parentheses. And that tells us that we need to distribute or send in the 7 to all the numbers. Well, first off, let's do 7 times 32. 7 times 32 is 14. That gives us 224 minus 7n equals n. And now we're looking at it and we're thinking, who's not happy now? And you could say, wait a second, that 7n needs to be moved. Now, you might be thinking, wait, I have to separate the 7n. Well, you really can't do that because it'll just give us the same thing over here. So let's just move the entire minus 7n to the other side. So we do plus 7n, because the opposite of minus 7n is plus 7n. And we're going to do that to both sides. And what happens is this cancels itself out. So we have 224 equals 8n. And we're almost finished, and you just think to yourself, wait, who can I move? Well, the 8 and the n are both unhappy because you have a variable next to a number. The 224 is happy, and the 8 says, I'm coming your way. I want to get away from that n. So 8 next to n is 8 times n. The opposite is division. So we're going to divide both sides by 8. And 8 divided by 8 is 1, so that cancels itself out. So we have n, and then we do 224 divided by 8. Well, 8 goes into 22 2 times. That gives us 16. We subtract. That gives us what? What does that give us? 4? Really? It gives us 4? No, it does not. That gives us 6. Bring down the 4. That gives us 64. And 8 goes into 64 8 times. and we subtract and we get a perfect number. So that tells us that n equals 28, or in the empty box is going to be 28. And 32 minus 28 is 4, and 28 divided by 7 is 4, and as you can see, they're equal. So we come down to our bigger box and we're going to look for 28. Remember, don't get confused. You are not looking for 4. You're looking for what goes in the box. So we come down here and we look for 28. And 28, where are you? It's E. Like E-T. E. E. So we come up here and we find all the E's and shade them in. Number 5, let me clean this up really quick for you. Number 5 is a negative 25. It's a negative number, which you might be, oh, wait a second, this is a little confusing. But remember, a negative number is just subtraction. Don't think about it in any hard way. Let me write this in, negative 25 plus, I'm going to put an n for the empty box, equals 71 minus n. Again, no one is happy because you got variables and numbers next to each other. They're like, get away from me! So, doesn't matter who you move, but just kind of think about it. Which one will save you some time? I think if we move the minus 25 this way, and since we're sending it to the opposite side, we need to do a plus 25 and a plus 25. The 25s cancel each other out. We end up with n equals 71 plus 25 gives us 96 minus n. Well, this n is happy, but these guys are unhappy because you have a variable next to a number or a letter next to a number, and you just think to yourself, who can I move to make everyone happy? Well, I can move the minus n to the opposite side. And again, if you move it to the opposite, you're going to do the opposite operation, which is plus n, and do it to both sides. So these guys are gone. We end up with 96. 96 is like, woohoo, I'm by myself. I'm happy. And over here we end up with 2n. Now you kind of see a pattern again. Once we kind of move these n's back and forth, we're getting 2n. And to separate the 2 and the n, because again, 2n means 2 times n. The opposite operation to send this 2 to the other side would be division. So we're going to divide both sides by 2. The 2's are gone because 2 divided by 2 is 1. And 1n is the same thing as n. So we end up with n equals 96 divided by 2. 96 divided by 2 is 48. So 48 goes in our box. And again, you're going to come down here and you're going to find 48. 48 is what letter? 48 is JJ. And we come back up here and shade in all the JJs. This is what I like you to do. I like you to do problems 6, 7, 8, and 9 on your own. When you're finished, come back to me and we will check your answers. So press pause and press play when you're done. And I'll see you in a little bit. 6, 7, 8, and 9. All right, see you soon. Bye-bye. You're working on problem 6, 7, 8, and 9. 6 is an empty box. I'm just going to put n times 4 equals an empty box, n plus 45. Now, you got n times 4, which is actually the same thing as 4n. If you like to write it that way, you can, if that helps you. It actually saves us time in algebra and later on in math. And so now we look at it, and again, no one's happy because everyone's next to letters and next to variables or next to numbers, so no one's happy. But we got to think about this. Who can we move to make this problem easier? Well, if you see this n right here, if we move this to the other side, then the 45's by himself, so he'd be happy. So let's move the n to the other side. And since there's no sign here, we know this is a plus n. And if you didn't know that, think about it for a second. When you have $5, you do not write a plus next to it usually, right? But you know it's a positive $5. So if you don't see a sign, always remember it's a positive number or a positive variable. So since we have no sign there, we know it is a positive n. And the opposite of a positive or a plus n is a minus n or a negative n. So we're just going to put minus n here and minus n over here. Remember, whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. And since we're sending it to the opposite side, we do the opposite operation. And the opposite of adding or plus is subtraction. So these guys are going to cancel themselves out. We end up with 45 over here. And 4n minus n. So basically that's what saying is you have 4 n's, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you're taking away 1. Well, that gives us 3 n's. So we end up with 3n equals 45. Again, we have a 3 next to the variable, so we need to get rid of it or send it to the opposite side. If we send it to the opposite side, we have to do the opposite operation. That's a lot of talking. Woo-wee! The opposite operation would be dividing by 3. So we do that to both sides. The 3's are canceled. N equals 45 divided by 3, which is 15. So 15 is going to go in our box, which is right here. 15 and 15, because 15 times 4 is 60, and 15 plus 45 is 60. And we get the same answer. Makes the statement true. So we come down here and we find our 15, not 60, 15. 15 is letter, what letter is 15? 15, you're hiding, but I will find you. It's R. And you'd come up to your picture and shade in all the R's. All right, problem number 7. Problem 7 has a 36 plus an empty box. Well, the empty box is going to be n again. Remember, you could use any variable you want. You could even use a symbol if you want. I'm just using n because I just think it's easier for me. So I'd say 36 plus n equals 98 minus n. And if we look at it, we can see no one is happy again. But I have a negative n over here. So I think the best thing to do is send it to the opposite side. That way it'll turn it into positive. And of course we want to deal with positive numbers because dealing with negative numbers makes things a little more difficult and crazy. So we send the negative n to the other side. The opposite operation of a minus n is a plus n. So we plus n both sides. The n's are gone here. We have 98. 98 is happy because it's by itself. There's no variables next to it. But over here we have 36 plus 2n. So the n is upset and the 36 and the 2 are upset. So we have to think, who can we move? Well, the best thing to do is move the 36 really quick out of the way, because we don't want to be multiplying or dividing all the numbers by 2. So we're going to send the 36 to the other side. And again, there's no sign here. So we know it's a plus or a positive. And the opposite of a plus or a positive is a minus or subtraction. So we're going to subtract both sides by 36. They're gone. We end up with 2n equals 98 minus 36. Well, 8 minus 6 is 2. 9 minus 3 is 6. We get 62. But over here we have the 2 next to the n, so no one is happy. And again, this is multiplication. By now you should know that 2 next to the n, or 3 next to a variable, or a variable next to a variable, or a number next to a variable is all multiplication. So the opposite of multiplication is division. So we divide both sides by 2. They're canceled out. N equals 62 divided by 2. And 62 divided by 2 is 31. So 31 is our answer. And that would go into number 7, right? That's what we're doing. So 31 goes right there and right there. 36 plus 31 gives us 67. And 98 minus 31 gives us 67. So we're looking for 31 down here in our big box. 31 is B. And you'd come up to the top and shade in all the BBs. I'm sorry, all the B's. I said BB because there's more than one of them. Don't forget. Problem number 8. Problem 8 says an empty box divided by 9 equals an empty box plus negative 24. Again, I'm going to use n's because it helps us out, or helps me out. N divided by 9 equals n plus negative 24. And if you've forgotten, remember this right here is the same thing as minus 24. So if it helps you out, you can write minus 24 like that. And you have n divided by 9. I think the best thing to do first is get rid of the dividing by 9, because if we start moving numbers around in letters, it'll get kind of confusing. So let's just do the opposite operation and send it to the opposite side. So we're going to do times 9 by both sides. This is gone, and we end up with n equals. Now, since we sent it to the other side and there's a variable and a number, that means we have to multiply everything by 9. That means we have to multiply the 24 by 9 and the n by 9. If you want to do it the mathematical way and make it look nice and pretty, you can write it like this. But honestly, this is okay as long as you remember you have to multiply everything by 9. If you do a division, you send a division over, you have to divide everything by that number. So remember, if there's more than one number, or there's a variable in a number, you have to do everything on that side by what you send over when you're multiplying and dividing. Okay, that only happens when you're multiplying and dividing. So we have n, right? And if we multiply the 9 by n, we get 9n. And if we multiply the 24 by 9, I'm just going to do it right over here. Maybe you guys could do it in your head. 9 times 4 is 36. And 9 times 2 is 18. Plus 3 is 216. And then we send 9n over to the other side. And there's no sign here, so that means it's a positive, and the opposite is minus 9n. So we're going to subtract both sides by 9n. The 9n's are gone. We end up with a negative 216 equals n minus 9n. That means you're taking away 9n. That means we have a negative number. So n minus 9n is 8n. If you didn't know that, you could always just say 9n minus n equals 8n. But you had more negatives, so it's negative 8n. Or you could say I had n and I'm taking away 9 of them. Well, so that's 1 gone. So we have 8 more that we need to take away. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, which will give us a negative 8n. Many ways of doing subtracting integers, but most of the time you should be able to do it in your head. So we have a negative 8n. Now, some people get confused here. Remember, when you're getting rid of this 9n right here, don't forget there's a negative here. That's always the biggest mistake. People forget that negative is there. So remember, there's a negative there. So we actually have 2 negatives. And if you think about it, you're just going to cross them out, because if I send a negative to the other side, it becomes a positive. So you can basically just cross these out now if you like. And then we're going to send the 8 to the other side because the n's not happy, so we're going to divide by 8. Sorry, I got a little messy here, huh? So the 8's are gone. You end up with n equals 216 divided by 8, which again will give us 216. You subtract 21 minus 16 gives us 56, so that'll be 7. So the answer is 27. Again, I apologize for getting kind of messy. I think once I get down to this point, though, you should know what to do. Let me erase this little mess here. Apologize for that. So we end up with 27. So 27 goes in our box here and 27 here. 27 divided by 9 is 3, and 27 plus negative 24, or 27 minus 24, gives us 3. Do you see how I always check the answers just to make sure? That's a good habit to do. I know sometimes a problem's going to be really long and crazy and you can't check it, but on these smaller ones you should always check it just to make sure you're correct. So we're looking for 27 down here in our big box, and 27 is letter M. And you'd come up to the picture and shade in M. I will try to get a little neater next time. And again, I apologize for that messiness. Remember, your math teacher always wants your work to be clean, not like this. So I'll probably get a little slap from my teacher. Hold on. Bad spro. So just remember to keep your work a little cleaner than mine. I'm just here to help. All right, problem 9. We have 4 plus n equals n divided by 1/2. All right. Some of you might have got confused on this problem because now we're dealing with some fractions. Remember, when it comes to division, if you have a divide by 1/2, you have to change the division to a multiplication, and then you have to take the fraction and find the reciprocal, or I just call it flip it. You flip it good. Da, 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 da. flip it. So you're going to flip it. In other words, you're just going to turn this upside down. So that's 2 over 1. And 2 over 1 equals 2. So really, you have n times 2. And if you've forgotten how to do this, maybe you should go back and look at your fractions and how to do dividing fractions. And again, you just change the division to multiplication. And the fraction, you take the reciprocal or you flip it. So it becomes 2 over 1, and 2 over 1 equals 2. So we end up with, let me change this black to black. 4 plus n equals n times 2. And if you like, you can change this to 2n. Just makes the problem look a little simpler. And to solve this now, I think I would probably, what would I do? I would send the n over here. And if you send the n to the opposite side, the opposite of addition is subtraction, so you're going to minus both sides by n. These guys are gone. You end up with 4, who's really happy because he has no variables next to him. And over here, 2n minus n, that means you have 2 n's. You're getting rid of one of them. That means you only have 1 n. So n equals 4. We're done. So we put 4 here, and we put 4 here, and 4 plus 4 is 8. And again, if we flip this, 4 times 2 right here, 4 times 2 equals 8. Sorry about that. Equals 8. So both sides are the same. We're going to find 4 in our box. Remember, we find this one right here. So we're going to find 4 in our big box. 4 is y. Y. And you're going to shade in all the y's. So this is what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to do problems 10, 11, 12, and 13. Does that sound about right? 10, 11, 12, and 13 on your own. So press pause. When you're finished, press play and come back to me and we'll check your answers. See you in a bit. Alright, welcome back. You were supposed to do problems 10, 11, 12, and 13 on your own. Problem 10, we have an empty box. I'm going to change it to n divided by 12 equals an empty box. I'm going to change it to n minus 22. All right, what do we do first? Well, no one's happy again. So you can move whoever you want. But the problem is we want to see which one will save us some time. And since we have an n divided by 12 here, I think we want to do the opposite operation and send the 12 to the opposite side. I think that'll be the best way of doing this. And we send it to the opposite side. That means these two are gone, and we end up with n. Because remember, a divided by 12 and a times 12 are opposite, so they cancel each other out. Or they create 1, but 1 times n is n. So we end up with n equals. Now, since we sent the 12 to the other side, we have to multiply both the variable and the number by 12. Don't forget that. So 12 times n becomes 12n, and 12 times 22. Well, I can tell you the answer is going to be 240 plus 24, which is 264. And some of you might be thinking, how did you do that? Well, I use my distributed property knowledge to figure it out. But if you don't see it, let's just do it really quick over here. We end up with 2 times 2 is 4, 2 times 2 is 4. We end up with a 0 for a placeholder. 1 times 2 is 2, and 1 times 2 is 2. We end up with 264. And again, if you didn't see how I did that, let's just take a second really quick. What I did was I knew I had 22 times 12, right? Well, if I separate this 12 into 10 plus 2, 10 times 22 is 220, and 2 times 22 is 44. That gives us 264. Really quick, I did that in my head. That's how the distributive property helps you. And I always get that a lot of times. People say, what is the distributive property? Why am I doing it? Well, there it is right there. It just saved us time. Sorry, I got a little sidetracked there. Math, so much fun. All right, so I got an n. He's happy. He's by himself. I got all these guys. No one is happy. I think what I'm going to do is just move the 12n to the other side. And again, I have to keep the 12 and the n together because if I start trying to divide by 12, it'll be all messy. So let's move the entire 12n together. No sign here, so the opposite is minus 12n. Minus 12n. The 12n's cancel each other out. And don't forget that negative sign. So I have a negative 264 equals n minus 12n. So basically you can say 12n minus n. That gives you 11n. And since you have more negatives, this is a negative 11n. So I have a negative 11n. So we have two negatives on each side. So if I send the negative to the other side, this will become a positive. Or you can just cancel out the negatives. So I end up with 11n equals 264. Do not forget about those negatives. That's always the biggest mistake people make, is they forget about the negatives when they're solving these problems. And that screws everything up. All right? Sorry, that messes everything up. All right, so we have 11n. That means multiplication. So we're going to do the opposite, which means we divide by 11. So we divide by 11 by both sides. This is gone, so we end up with n equals 264 divided by 11. 11 goes into 26 two times. I subtract, I get 44. 11 goes into 44 four times. And, sorry, we get 0. Getting really messy. So we get n equals 24. So 24 goes here, and 24 goes here. 24 divided by 12 is 2, and 24 minus 22 is 2. We got the same answer. The statements are true. And all we do now is we come down here and we find the 24. 24 is letter AA. And we come back up to our picture and we shade in the AAs. All right, problem number 11. Now, again, some of you might be thinking, God, I can do this faster than he can. That is perfectly fine. You can work on the worksheet on your own. Hopefully I'm helping some of you. So let's keep on going. Problem 11. We have an empty box which becomes an n. N times 2. We got another empty box which becomes n plus 6. Well, n times 2 is 2n. N plus 6. All I would do is I would send the n to the other side. Now again, you can move whatever you want, but the idea is to figure out what saves you time. I figured out the n will save us some time, because if I just send n over, minus n, we get rid of it. We have 6. He's all happy now. He's by himself. And over here, 2n minus n gives me n. We're done. N equals 6. So 6 goes right here, and 6 goes right here. 6 times 2 is 12, and 6 plus 6 is 12. So we're going to find 6 in our box. Remember, we're not looking for the 12. We're looking for whatever's in the box. So we find 6 in here. 6, 6, 6 is J. And we come up and shade in all the J's. That was easy. Now, some of you might have been thinking, why did you even have to do this long way? I can look at it really quick and solve it in my head. That is awesome. That's actually what we did in level 1 and level 2. So it's really cool if you can figure that out really fast in your head. But again, I'm just doing the old-fashioned algebra way. All right, number 12. We got an empty box. N plus 26 equals 96 minus n. Again, I'm just substituting or changing the empty boxes to n. No one is happy, but since we have a minus n over here, I'm going to send it over to the other side. And the opposite of minus n is plus n. So I do plus n to both sides. The n's are gone. So I end up with 96 equals n plus n is 2n plus 26. The 26 is saying, get me out of here. I want to go join the 96. So I send him to the other side. The opposite of plus 26 is minus 26. So I'm going to subtract 26 on both sides. Cancel. We end up with 2n equals 96 minus 26, which will give us 70. Then I divide by 2. Divide by 2. And again, 2n means 2 times n. And the opposite of multiplication is division. That's why I'm dividing by 2. And whatever I do to one side, I have to do the other. So I'm going to send the 2 to the opposite side. 2's are gone. N equals 70 divided by 2, which is 35. So 35 will go right here. 35 plus 26 will give us 61. And 96 minus 35 will give us 61. 61 equals 61. They are the same or they are equal. So I come down over here and I find 35. Inner box, 35, 35, 35. 35 is EE. Not ET, but EE. Wait a second, I already used that ET joke. Oh, that was lame, huh? All right, get away from that one. 13. Last problem in this group. E13, 13. Okay, 13. We have an 24 times an empty box, which I'm going to substitute n in for, and 50 minus an empty box, which is n. I'm looking at this again, and I'm seeing that 24 times n. I'm thinking, oh, let's move the 24. But wait a second. If we just write this way, 24n equals 50 minus n, I think the best thing to do is send the negative n over to the other side so we can combine the n's. So the opposite of minus n is plus n. Plus n, we end up canceling, crossing out those. So we end up with 50 equals 24n plus n gives us 25n. And this is multiplication right here. So we're going to do division, division, and we get cancel. N equals 2. Now, some of you might have been thinking, wait a second, I could do this in my head. I don't have to do all this work. Well, yes and no. Just remember, this is just kind of review, and your teacher's going to want to see your work. So make sure you show your work. And again, it should be neater than mine. But make sure you show your work. Don't just stop all of a sudden and say 25n equals 50. Your teacher's going to say, wait a second, you didn't do your work. You copied off Bob. You're going to say, no, I didn't copy off Bob. I copied off Joe. Aha, gotcha. Anyway, make sure you show your work. Press pause, do 14, 15, 16, and 17 on your own. When you're done, press play, and I will go over the answers with you. See you in a bit. Welcome back. You were supposed to do problems 14, 15, 16, and 17. Problem 14 has an empty box plus 3 equals 87 minus an empty box. And remember, we're changing our empty boxes to n. So we have n plus 3 equals 87 minus n. No one is happy. We're all unhappy. I don't want to be here. I don't want to do this. I'm unhappy. So we can move wherever we want. I suggest moving the negative n over to the opposite side to make it a positive. That's usually the best thing to do, is move the negative numbers to the opposite to turn them into positive numbers. So we have a positive n down here because we have to do plus n to cancel out the negative n. He's gone. See ya. And we have 87 equals n plus n is 2n plus 3. Now, the 2 next to the n, it's multiplication. I'd wait to do that till the end. I would send the positive 3 to the opposite side because the positive 3 wants to get away from the n and join the numbers on the opposite side. Again, you're trying to separate the variables and the numbers. So the opposite of plus 3 is minus 3. That is a 3. So these 3's are gone. We end up with 2n equals 84. Now we're going to divide by 2 because 2n means multiplication, and whatever you do to one side, you have to do the other side. Cancel. N equals 42. So 42 is going to go in our box, and let's just check it really quick. This 42 plus 3 is 45, and 87 minus 42 is 45. They are equal. They are the same. So we come down here and we're looking for 42. 42 is letter HH. So you're going to shade in all the HH's. Problem 15, let me just erase this really quick to get it out of our way. Again, if I'm going too fast for you, you can always press pause or rewind and you can watch this video again. If I'm going too slow, just say see you later. I'm going to do this on my own. I'm just here to help. 54 minus an empty box is n equals an empty box times 5. And again, we put n's for empty boxes. I'm going to join this n times 5 to 5n. And we have minus and 54. I think the best thing to do is send the negative numbers to the opposite side first. So we're going to send this negative n to the opposite side. And it's going to the opposite, so a negative n will become a positive n. So we're going to plus n on both sides. That way we can cancel this out because minus n plus n equals 0, and they're gone. And over here we have 5n plus n, which makes 6n. And all we have to do is divide by 6, because 6n equals 6 times n, and the opposite of multiplication is division. So these are gone. 6 divided by 6 is 1. So you end up with 1n, or just n. So this is just n. And 54 divided by 6 is, you guessed it, 9. So 9 goes here, and 9 goes here. 54 minus 9 is 45. And 9 times 5 is 45. Check. And we come down to our big box and we find 9. 9 is T. You think I'm going to do an E.T. joke? Nope, I'm going to do a Mr. T joke. Mr. T. Ah, pity the fool. So you're going to find the T up above, and you're going to highlight, or sorry, you're going to shade in all the T's. Let me clean this up. We're almost done. Only 2 more problems, and you are free. You're free to go do your language homework. Ha ha ha, more homework. Ha ha. Never ends. All right, number 16. We have an empty box. N times 3 equals an empty box. N plus 156. Well, again, I'd combine the n times 3 to 3n. And n plus 156. I do this because I just think it's going to save us time in the end. And n. Now, we can move whoever we want, but I think we want to move the n to the opposite side to the other n, so they join together and say, hey, what's up, brother? Oh, yeah! And the 156 is happy by himself. And since there's no sign, we're going to do the opposite, minus n, minus n. 3n minus n gives us 2n. These n's are gone. And we have 156. 156 is happy, but the 2 next to the n is not. So we can move the 2 to the opposite side to join its friend, a number. The opposite of that is division, so we're going to divide by 2 on both sides. I don't think I have to explain to you again that 2n is 2 times n anymore. And then these cancel each other out. We get n equals 156 divided by 2, which would be what? 88? No, that can't be right. It can't be 88. It would have to be 78, because 78 plus 78 equals 156. So n equals 78, and we're going to put 78 right here. And again, check your answer really quick. 78 times 3. 3 times 8 is 24. Carry the 2. 3 times 7 is 21. Add 2, 23. So we get 234, and if we add 78 here, we get 4, we carry the 1, we get 3, carry the 1, we get 234. So our answers are the same, they're equal, the statements are true. So we come over here, we have 78, and we find all the 78s, which would be A. And you come back in the picture and shade in the A's. Last one, yeah, that is fantastic. We have problem 17. An empty box, which is going to be n divided by 3, equals a negative 38 plus an empty box, which is n. Ooh, wow, this is a little scary. What I would do is multiply by 3 on both sides. Cancel, we get n. Now over here, since we sent over a multiplication, multiplying by 3, we have to multiply everybody by 3. So 3 times 38 is 3 times 8 is 24, carry the 2, 3 times 3 is 9, gives us 114. Don't forget the negative. There's a negative there, right there. See it right there? And then plus 3n. Well, the n's happy, he's by himself. But we need to send the 3n to the other side to join the n's together. And you cannot separate the 3 and the n, or you're just doing the same thing back and forth. So just send the entire number and variable together. So the opposite of a plus 3n will be a minus 3n. Minus 3n. These are cancel each other out because 3n minus 3n is 0. We get 114. Don't forget the negative. and n minus 3n. So you have an n, and you're taking away 3. That means you have a negative 2n. And you could just do 3n minus n gives us 2n, and since there's more negatives, it would be a negative 2n. All right? So we have negatives on both sides. If I send the negative to the other side, it becomes positive, or you could just cancel them out. And you end up with 2n equals 114. I am going to divide by 2, divide by 2. This gives me n equals 114 divided by 2, which would be what? 57. So 57 goes in our box. And I'm going to check it really quick. 57 divided by 3 would be 127, would be 19. And negative 38 plus 57, I just change this around and say 57 minus 38. 7 minus 8, we're going to need to borrow. That gives us 9. It gives us 19. So the answers are the same. They are equal. Right here, you see this part right here? Remember, you're saying minus 38 plus 57. You can just switch it around really quick and subtract. All right, we are looking for 57. 57 is letter P. Not PP, but P. So you shade in letter P in your picture. And guess what? After you shade all those in, you are done. I'm done. You're done. I hope I helped you, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.